My simple personal projects always belonging to monsters as I started working on them. Here's a rough block out of the concept. Here's some of the references I found from other artists. I thought I only needed to build USD assets from SpeedTree, instance the trees and grass onto the floor, rig the trees and grass for subtle breezy motion, procedurally create the rooms and panel lights from the ceiling, then procedurally animate the lights driven by an audio track. It's actually way more complicated than that. I imagine it would be way easier to do that in Blender, but this project is an exercise to learn things in Houdini, so I'm going to stick with it. I started by building the SpeedTree assets in Solaris, following Adrian Lambart's tutorial. It was pretty straightforward. This way definitely seems like the correct way to use Solaris compared to the way I used to import things. It's also the first time I ever used the preview option in the viewport. This will be the only way I build assets in Solaris from now on. After going back and forth, I built this library of trees that I was happy with. Then I started building out the room. Building the room is the easy part. However, the challenge came when it was time to set it up in a way that it could be instanced into Solaris without me having to cache out the entire animation in SOPs first. So I separated out a single panel to use as a module and then extracted the centroid of each of the panels. In Solaris, I instanced the panel module along with a square light to each of the points. I was thinking that I would create attributes on the points to drive the animation on the intensity and color of both the shader emission and the camera lights. It looked that I would need to use chops. I have very little experience with chops, so it seemed like I would have to learn at least the bare minimum. Halfway through that, I realized I needed to build some sort of pattern for the panels to make an animation that is somewhat interesting. I started out trying to do that in Attribute Vault, then quickly realized the limitation of that. It seemed like cops would be the answer to creating patterns of any kind in Houdini. I would need to create a few animated patterns for different types of beats, like they have in nightclubs. I got started on that, but I do need to quickly import everything into Solaris, so I at least have an idea of what I was creating. The scope of the project definitely got a lot bigger than I originally intended, because I didn't know the things I didn't know until I started working on it. I gave myself 2 weeks to do it, and I still intend on keeping that deadline. But here's the lesson here somewhere. Always give yourself double the amount of time you think you need when you actually bid for real client work. Houdini is such a monstrosity of a software that I think I'm almost guaranteed to have to learn new things for every project, no matter how simple it seems from the start. So here's the first update, and I will see you guys in the next one.